a very robust youth wing, a youth wing that I am a product of. Today, I'm in Parliament because of the work that we started together in 2018 when I was your deputy. And I'm very happy that President Mahama has decided to appoint you as the first ever Minister for Youth Development and Empowerment. Now to my question. Having worked with you as your deputy for 4 years, I know you are very passionate about the youth. You are passionate about job creation. You are passionate about youth development. You're passionate about providing opportunities to young people. But in this public space, passion is not enough. With a nation under austerity, looking at the challenges that we are confronted with in our economy, how will you answer to the real questions of public policy implementation as against the challenges in the economy? I'm talking about the funding gaps. How will you raise resource manifesto of the NDC?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that when His Excellency President Mahama decided to set up the Ministry for Youth Development, he had a plan and a vision. And so I want to believe strongly that he will make resources available, even though we are under austerity. But that notwithstanding, if this committee graciously gives me the nod, one of the first things I intend to set up is a desk at the ministry that will go around the world and solicit for funding to support initiatives of young people. And that will pursue aggressively. Thank you.
Any more questions? If you don't have more questions,
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up.
Let me give the floor. You have a follow-up?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Thank you. The honorable nominee, on the issue of funding and establishing a desk, the Ministry of Youth used to be together with the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Now it has been decoupled. You are the first minister designate, or you will be the first minister when you are approved. Do you have any ideas how much in terms of allocation is likely to come to your ministry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When I looked at the appropriation bill for last year, the total amount that was allocated to the Ministry of Youth and Sports was about 35 million Ghana cedis. I am yet to sit down with the finance minister and look at how much they intend to put in. But His Excellency the President, because I know how passionate he is about youth issues, I want to strongly believe that they will heavily fund that ministry so that we can help resolve the many challenges that confront the young people of this country. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I'll give the floor to Nana Asafo-Adjei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Mr. Chairman, I'm grateful for the opportunity. Let me first and foremost commend the commander of the Youth Army of the NDC. And I want to also congratulate you for your nomination. It's important. My first question, I want to know or understand what your scope of work or what your ministry would be about, because it will be your scope of work.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let's look at this scenario. Football is played by 22 players, or is played between 11 players on both sides. Over the years, our focus as a country has been on the leather ball. The leather ball representing the Ministry of Sports. And then the human beings that play the game, that is the soccer ball, have been left idle. We have not paid deliberate attention to the human beings that make us enjoy the game. What President Mahama is seeking to do is being deliberate and intentional in setting up a ministry that will focus its main emphasis on how we can improve, develop, formulate policies that affects young people and see to it that the unemployment challenge and scare that stares at us every day is brought to an end. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, a follow-up.
Please do.
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up, sorry. I want to understand, how are you going to clearly segregate the youth issues? Because clearly we have youth issues under the Ministry of Health, We have youth issues under Ministry of Education, under various ministries. How are you going to clearly segregate all these ones?
Well, I will allow the question, but treat it as a substantive question instead of a follow-up question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, because issues confronting young people, if not treated well, will become a national security scare for all of us. President Mahama, identifying this problem, was very intentional in setting up the youth ministry. It is true, from what the honorable member said, because young people are everywhere, you find our issues scattered across all ministries. Yet, no proper coordination is done. Over the years, you hear that there is one issue happening in one ministry. There is one project happening in another ministry. And so there is a lot of duplication of efforts. What the youth ministry seeks to do is to sit in the center and coordinate all these activities so that we don't have the duplication of efforts that has happened previously, and proper attention is paid to issues confronting young people. We are being intentional, we are being deliberate in our resetting agenda. That is why we have this Ministry for Youth Development. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. You have one more chance.
The Chairman, so still following up from your response, it means you're going to have the youth, National Youth Authority as a sole agency under your ministry. No, let me finish, because my questions are limited. I want to pack them so that you get it. Now, if you are going to have the National Youth Authority under your ministry, do you intend to create other agencies so you would help coordinate all the issues you are running about us in the youth issues? How are you going to synchronize?
Mr. Chairman, can I answer now? Thank you. The EI that President Mahama issued in establishing the youth ministry puts 6 agencies under the ministry. And so it is not going to be the National Youth Authority alone. Other agencies are going to be there. And I believe the head of civil service together with the chief of staff are working to align those agencies. But the National Youth Authority, because of its acts and its mandate, automatically falls under that ministry. There are some special programs that we promise in our manifesto. And so as and when we begin to roll them out, His Excellency in His wisdom will decide under which agencies that they will fall. But most likely, most of them are youth-related, and I want to strongly believe that those ones will come directly under the purview of the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So the National Youth Authority was passed by this House. And then you clearly remember, Honorable, is a follow-up.
Are you referring to the National Youth Authority
Act, I'm referring to the National Youth Authority Act, which was passed by this House. We remember or we recall that Honorable Kodo, Honorable Kwashiga went to court to get the court to declare that the 5% which is being given for youth development is null and void. How are you going to raise funds to support?
Hold on. I believe that is not what the Supreme Court judgment said. The Supreme Court judgment interpreted a constitutional provision in relation to what constitutes total revenue. And this has nothing to do with national youth. That's what the decision says in the case of Bodo and Koshiga versus Attorney General. So please, if you have another question, proceed to answer. Proceed to ask.
Mr. Chairman, the NDC ran several campaigns, and then under your time, I heard you on radio talking about 133 formula, 101, 102. Can you explain it clearly to the House?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't run any commentary on 1001. If you can be very specific, I'll be able to give you an answer. But from what you are saying, I don't know which ones you are referring to, because we ran a few adverts and we had a few formulas. But
well, Honorable Nominee, you are not entitled to ask questions. Once you say you did not say that, okay, we take that for an answer.
Thank you, Mr.
I will now proceed to give the floor to Nana Osei Ajay. While Mumuni Mohammed Nuruddin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nominee, congratulations. And I want to find out from you, a lot of your party youth went on rampage after the 2024 elections. What do you have to tell them? An example.
Please, hold it. Order.
I will give you the evidence. I will give you the evidence.
Order. Honorable members, let's have some order.
And you watch national television.
Honorable Nuruddin.
Mr. Chairman.
If you have the evidence that something happened,
Mr. Chairman,
and such a thing is coming from the people identified to be NDC youth, please table it for consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I will forward to the committee after this. In Northeast region.
Ask another question.
Mr. Nominee, some youths, an example, in the Northeast region. In the Northeast region, right after the election, the regional coordinating council was locked by some youth of the NDC. I want to find out from you.
Can you proceed to ask another question? Okay. Honorable Nuruddin, ask another question.
Mr. Chairman.
Order. Please, order.
I will not be
Please,
scared.
order.
I will not be scared.
Honorable member, let there be some order. I don't want to be mentioning names. Please ask another question.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Nominee. Let me help you.
Another question. Please ask another. Ask another question.
Mr. Nominee, I want to find out what plans do you have for the youth who are into agriculture in this country? I will not be scared.
Please proceed to answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Agriculture is the backbone of every economy. And as such, His Excellency President Mama has a vision for young people who want to venture into agriculture. I started by saying that it is because we have not made agriculture very attractive. It doesn't entice young people to get into it. And young people don't even appreciate the need why they have to get into agriculture. So we need to sensitize young people on why we need to get into agriculture and also make agriculture very formal and very enticing. We want to start by first, because of our land tenure system, because most people struggle to even acquire lands to go into agriculture. As part of our manifesto promise, we are going to do what we call the land bank systems, so that people who have lands will make their lands available to their district assemblies and then form a land bank. And then if I am a prospective farmer, I go and assess that land. I don't have to pay for the land. But when I finish farming and then I get my produce, some percentage of whatever I get will be given to the landowner, like what we used to have previously called in Obwa in the Akan cultures. We're also going to start the farmer-based service centers. Because if you're a young farmer who wants to get into agriculture, the cost of machinery is so much that you may not be able to procure them on your own. And so you will need some support. Government wants to set up the district mechanization centers or the farming-based centers and procure these equipments, put them at the disposal of the assemblies, and then young people who want to venture into farming can go and have access to it, rent them at very reduced prices, and then they can use it to get into agriculture. We're also going to support with improved seedlings, fertilizers, and every other service that is going to help young people get into agriculture. And so under the watch of the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment, we are going to empower many more young people, turn their passions into purpose, and develop agriculture in such a way that young people will enjoy themselves doing it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any further question?
Mr. Chairman, my second question has to do with
third one.
The first question wasn't answered. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Nominee, we all know in this country, illegal mining has caused our water bodies a lot of havoc. I want to find out from you what plans that your ministry has about the youth in illegal mining.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Before you answer, with all due respect, let's observe some decorum. Let there be order so that we can have the opportunity to listen to the question and the answer from the nominee. With all due respect.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, there is a Ghana we all want. And one of the things we want in the Ghana I want, illegal mining is not part of it. I want to see a Ghana where we do mining in a manner which is sustainable and doesn't degrade the environment in any ways. And I believe that is also the vision of His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. And so young people who want to get into mining, first we need a reset of the mind. Until we reset the mind and re-engage them, there is an old way that they've done things, and we must re-engage them to change them from the old ways they've done things. We are going to work together with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, sustainable ways of mining. Because I've always said that wherever there is gold and there is poverty, people will find ways and means of getting under the ground to take something out. We must eradicate poverty from the areas we find ourselves. And if we're able to do that effectively, by giving them alternative livelihoods, we may bring an end to the illegal mining menace. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. I will now call on Yusuf, former Minister for Actual Youth and
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to congratulate the nominee for his appointment, especially being the first minister for youth development, standing alone, because previously we have Minister for Youth and Sports in the various regimes. So I want to congratulate you. Mr. Nominee, my question to you is that His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's administration launched a 10-year youth policy and also its implementation plan. Given that this policy is at the early stage and you are taking over, what do you have to make sure that you implement this youth policy, and how do you intend to address the challenges that may come during the rollout of its implementation? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have met the authorities at the NYA, and I've taken a brief from them. I intend to work with them on what they have started. I've looked at the policy, and I think it's laudable. You don't need to reinvent the wheel when there is something already in motion. And so we'll work with them. The good news is that President Mahama has put issues of youth at the center of his government. And so whatever the challenges are, I'm very rest assured I'll get the needed support from Cabinet to make sure we pursue it and make sure the action plan and the policy framework works effectively. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any further question?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo roll out a lot of youth initiatives. And these initiatives, like the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Plan, you have the Youth Start program, you have the YEA, you have National Service, you have National Youth Authority. We have various youth initiatives in most of the ministries, like youth in agriculture. How do you intend to coordinate all these things to avoid duplication? Because every year during budget, most of these ministries will come with budgets for youth programs. If you even take the Ministry of Lands, for example, Lands and Natural Resources, the Alternative Livelihood Program was also a budget separate. How do you intend to coordinate all these things to ensure that the youth of this country get the benefit of the various youth initiatives that we roll out during our time, and making sure that you maintain them and possibly bring in more initiatives? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The good news is that today there is a Ministry for Youth Development. Previously, it was not like that. It was the Ministry for Youth and Sports. And we all know that issues of youth, because they are scattered, forgive me, Honorable, but once you get into the ministry, the issues become too cumbersome. Your focus just goes on to sports. And sports is easy. What I say is it's not easy in the sense that there are no challenges, but it's a one-stop shop. And so you're able to deal with it. Luckily for us, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama has set up a ministry that is going to coordinate all these activities. And so we will not have the duplication, because now information will be shared. And we're going to set up teams that is going to manage, and then there's going to be interagency committee that will look at programs that this agency is doing, and then we'll be able to sync them together so that we don't end up wasting the little scarce resources we have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are you done?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
thank you very
on this
much.
note, I want to wish him well. It is a laudable initiative, especially making sure that we are able to judiciously use the taxpayers' money, and no different agencies doing different things, the same thing in different agencies. So I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm still on my left. I'll give the opportunity to Fred Che, Dr. Fred Che Asamoah. Honorable. Doc, you have the floor.
Honorable Chair, thank you for the opportunity. But first, let me congratulate my junior brother for his nomination. Honorable Chair, first, can the nominee tell us the agencies that are going to be, I know it's been repeated, but I want to ask him to tell us the agencies that are going to be under his ministry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Youth Employment Agency, the National Youth Authority, the National Service Secretariat, the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program, which is not an agency yet, but then before you left, there was an act that was being worked on, and so I hope the act will get passed when we take charge. MASLOC, and then the Scholarship Secretariat. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, my next question will be, which of these agencies will you recommend to His Excellency the President to merge due to the duplication that is seemingly existing in terms of the functions? As a Minister for the Youth Ministry, which of these agencies will you recommend that we merge?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's early days yet. I believe when I take over as Minister, I'll have a proper brief from the various agencies, and then we'll be able to look at it and decide which ones we need to merge and which ones we need to keep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Please, order. Please, order.
Honorable Chair, the OECD projects that in 26 years, the working population is likely to double in Africa. That means that 1 out of each working population will be found in Africa. Then also we know we have what we call not in education, not in employment, or not in training. With you at the Youth Ministry, how are you going to ensure that you can work with the Ministry of Education to make sure that we prepare our youth to meet this challenge, taking into consideration what we call needs, and also looking at the fact that the working population in Africa is going to double, and also considering the unemployment rate of our current youth in Ghana?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I believe that's the last question. That's why it's convoluted. Listen to the answer first before you decide whether you have a follow-up or not. Because the follow-up must strictly flow from the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our challenge is not just the working class increasing. Our challenge is that there will be no jobs for us or for our population because of the issues of IT and machine learning. And so we need to prepare our youth towards that. By 2030, there will be 230 million jobs that will be needed in the IT space. And that is why His Excellency President Mahama is talking about training 1 million coders. It may sound audacious, but even 1 million coders for the 4 years will not be for us to meet the challenges that lies ahead of us. We need to build capacities of our young people. Currently, about, if I'm not mistaken, the net population, not in employment, not in training, and not in education, stands at about 12 point something % of the working, the non-working population. It's a danger. The danger is that these are the group that anybody can fall on. So when we have vigilante groups, because if I have a job, I will not be a gun for hire. You will not even find me to hire me. But if I don't have a job, then I'm available to do anything that anybody asks me to do. And so I am more than willing to liaise with all the relevant agencies to find out how we can reduce that number, train them properly, reset their minds, because most of them are tired. It is not that they fall into the hardcore unemployment bracket, because they have tried severally, they couldn't find jobs. And so they've come to the end of their search and said that, I'm not going to do anything anymore. We need to have a mind reset. We need to reorient them. We need to constantly engage that group, because that group is a national security threat. And I am going to work with all the relevant agencies so that we train them, look for opportunities for them, and formalize some of the things they do, so that they begin to see it as formal employment, and then we'll be able to get out of some of these cankers.
Thank you very much. Strictly a follow-up.
Yeah, it's a follow-up. Honorable Chair, thank you very much. So, with respect to training them, that is where there's always a conflict, because we have Ministry of Education that is supposed to be in charge of skilling. And we also have other agencies that are supposed to be in charge of funds. So if you say training, how are you going to ensure that you don't duplicate what is happening at the Ministry of Education? And you also talked about agencies that you want to collaborate. Definitely you need to collaborate with agencies to professionalize your youth so that they can they can have some job. And also you will need some increased investment to be channeled to this upscaling and professionalization. So how will you ensure that we cannot have this duplication that has bedeviled this country? And how will also ensure that you can have enough investment channeled towards your ministry so that we can have the teeming youth well prepared for this new job? Because definitely there's going to be a lot of jobs that will be lost, but the amount of jobs that are going to come in will double. So how do you intend to make sure that you don't duplicate what is happening in other ministries? And how will you also ensure that you can get that enough funds or investment to support this professionalization and upscaling?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To find funding, you must go look for it. And that is exactly what I will do when I am approved as minister. I will go look for funding wherever there is funding. We will have to knock on every door. We also appeal to traditional authorities, local individuals, organizations, wherever we can find resources. In other jurisdictions, individuals contribute significantly. People make money and then give them out. We've seen a lot from the Jeff Bezos, the Donald, what's he called? Bill Gates and co. A lot of them. And so we'll reach out to, and in Ghana, there are so many individuals who are capable of doing that. And then we'll write their names in gold in the history of this country that they supported Ghana, did ABCD. And so we'll find funding. We'll also collaborate effectively with all the ministries. Luckily for us today, there is a ministry solely for youth development and empowerment. And so our task is to coordinate with all the various agencies and ministries. So if education is doing anything, just let us know, so that we also tell you that no, employment is doing the same. So channel these resources into this area. By doing so, with effective collaboration, we'll be able to end the issues of duplication. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. It's now the turn of Honorable Habib.
Thank you,
Deputy Whip.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Honorable Muhammad Yarga has a follow-up. No.